engine.
Well, good evening and welcome to Planetherring. I'm Michael, and this is another how-to session for the Global Mazda MX-5 Cup car. The current iRacing season is 2019 Season 4, and I think we're on Week 4 right now. They're doing Laguna Seca in the MX-5s, but next week is going to be Summit Point, the short little Jefferson circuit, and I figured I would take the opportunity before people start preparing for those races to do another little how-to. And so right now we look at the session. So obviously this isn't the a normal fixed setup session, so I'm just running the standard baseline. I'm really not certain if iRacing makes a difference there if they just run baselines, but so you might actually be able to go a little bit faster if they have tweaked that setup in any way, shape, or form. But so I've gotten in here, ran some laps just to refamiliarize myself, and I think I did a 56.1. Now I do know that in the advanced MX-5 Cup races, I have made it into the 55s with a custom setup and an exact amount of fuel, but with your fixed races, they're going to be telling you how much fuel you're going to run, and obviously there's not a lot else that you can change. So I think I have a setup that I've run here before, and so let's do both, and let's see if it makes any difference whatsoever. Now, the one thing I have done here is I've already run a few laps, as you can see. About 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 laps or so. So I have used a little bit of fuel. The MX-5 actually sips fuel to the tune of about 0.06 gallons per lap. So I'm not really certain about how much that's really going to affect things. I know when you do qualifying sessions in the Advanced Cup and you get it all the way down to 2 gallons, it sometimes it actually makes you go slower because it kind of throws the weight balance off because it's such a small, light car with a 50-50 weight distribution. So at any rate, at this point, I have only got 4.7 gallons, and I have brand new tires that he's just changed for me. So let's go out here and we'll run a couple of laps, and I'll call out some of the things that we're doing here and see if we can't actually do halfway decent. So one of the first things, if you're running auto clutch or auto blip on this car, it will definitely slow you down. If you're finding that you're doing things perfectly and you're just still a little bit slow, that's probably why. So this is one of the few cars that I have said many times that I run with full clutch, no aids, heel and toe, and there you go. So this is turn 1 in this version, and this is actually going to be done in second gear. I'll put together a whole lap, and this little S right here, you're really going to try to get right on those curves, and this one is going to be another second gear left-hander. You're really going to want to keep it tight, and then get up to third gear. You're going to be full on the throttle here and come across this hill. You'll be heading down, and almost right there where it kind of comes in, you're going to want to downshift actually to third. Now the important thing with this track is you absolutely do not want to get a back tire or a tire off on the grass here. That will absolutely spin you almost every time. It's almost a snap oversteer, completely unrecoverable. So you're going to be coming down here, and I think you will actually reach fourth by the time you get to here, and you're going to want to come down into third. Keep it in tight. That's one of the secrets here. You're judging right up here. You're going to get it down to second, and then keeping it nice and tight and probably rolling out and getting back on the throttle. It is pretty tricky. So we're going to try this almost at full speed since we got a little bit of a... So one of the things I do want to mention before I go through this again, in fact, I'll just do another kind of half slow lap, is these trees. There's not a lot of markers. So you're going to be looking Don't know if I'm going to get in trouble for backing up here, but if you're coming up here, depending on the weather settings, there's a couple of trees here at the end, and there's a little wall on the left-hand side. Those are kind of your only tells until you get familiar with this track about where you're going to stop. So you really need to kind of get in here because you're going to be in fourth gear, I think, and you're really going to want to hit the brakes super hard and take this in second. And now let's see if I can drive this. So as you can see, we're up to third. You're really almost turning in a little early. And then down to second. Keep it nice and tidy.
Sector 1 is 37 seconds off your best.
That's because I'm talking. This is definitely, like I said, this is the place right here. If you get off on that corner, I mean, honestly, I would sacrifice a little bit of speed to...
Sector 2 is 0.40 off your best.
So coming in here, hard brake down to third, keep it nice and tight, come up to the top, second gear. Roll it out full speed. So here we go. We're going to try one at full speed here for you. So watching for those trees. Get up to third. Feather throttle on that one. Hard brake down to second. Keep it nice and tighty. Real tight against the inside. About 2/10 up on my fast time here. Let the car rotate around that corner and then get back on the gas when you're certain. See, I've almost made up those 2/10 and I'm now actually gaining time. Fourth gear. Keep third. Second gear, keep it nice and tidy. And I lost speed there, so I was really going a little too fast.
That lap was at 56.39. That puts you 0.28, slower than your best.
So it really does take some getting used to get exactly where you want this. The other thing is that practicing this car on this track,
Sector 2 is 2/10 off your best.
you're going to have a lot of cars. Now that's more representative of what you should be doing. See if we can...
That was 56.52. You're currently 0.41 off your best. Sector 3 time is fast.
So you can really see how just a little bit less fuel can actually throw you off here. So at this point, after
2/10 off your best in Sector 2.
2 or 3 laps, we're already facing tire degradation. So if you're pushing really super hard...
Your last lap time was at 56.44. That puts you 0.33 off your best. Sector 1 is 1/10 off your best.
Yeah, you're definitely going to have problems when you get multiple cars through here because it is very difficult to try to run these perfect laps if you've got, 20 cars.
Sector 2 is 2/10 off your best.
So I'm going to come in here real quick, and I'm
Look out for the pit speed limit. Box in. 3, 2, 1.
So we'll
Box
come.
now.
Yeah, I know. Thanks. So I'm going to take and I'm going to get another set of tires here and try a few more laps. See if I can get any better. So we're down to 4.1, 4.2 gallons of fuel here. Theoretically, we should go faster, but that's not necessarily the case. Like I said, with the MX-5, sometimes it's about the weight balance more than anything else. Okay, so let's kind of take it easy on a quick out lap here without messing up the tires too much. So the amazing thing is they actually run this track in reverse a lot of times, and it really does become a very different track. In fact, I think I like the reverse version better than the forward version. All right, so let's see. I don't know if it's so much necessary to go so fast yet, but so one of the things there is you want to keep that in tight, but you also want to be able to get full on back on to the throttle. So you can see I was up ever so slightly there. So now I've gotten back on the throttle right at the apex of that turn. And I've made up some of that time that I lost. So I'm going to do probably an even lap here.
Your lap time was a 56.18. You're currently 0.07, slower than your best.
A little bit better this time, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to keep that. Nice little rotation around that turn there. And if I can hold on to this time.
Sector 2 time is okay.
A little bit off track there.
That last lap was a 55.91.
So there you go. It is actually possible. So I don't know what the absolute quickest time on this track is. But it is possible to get down into the 59s once you burn off a little bit of fuel, and if you can get the lines and the shifts exactly
Well
right.
done, Michael. Take your time, start it back up and get back in the race.
So before we take and analyze the laps from outside the car and look at this, I do want to look here and look at my setups, and don't know if I have a dedicated Summit setup or not for this guy. Well, let's see. So I do have a Summit, but I think this is the long version of Summit, which is kind of a completely different thing. And one of the things I do a lot of times is I've got this Lime Rock set up here. So I think I'm going to pick that. And just to see, and I've got 2 gallons of fuel in this. So this is not going to be an apples to apples comparison by any shade of the imagination. But just to see what we could potentially do with a more specified setup. So essentially the idea here is I just want to see if we can get down into the low 55s without too much difficulty. And it's really more, since this is more aimed at everybody running the fixed setup, not really valid, but it does kind of show you how much or how less a good setup can make. And again, this certainly isn't a setup that's designed specifically for this course. I'm sure they are out there. I haven't really looked, but let's give this a shot. So the one thing I noticed for certain is that the willingness of the car to turn is greatly improved. And so I missed a shift there. But even with that, being able to actually hug this line, and it's not quite perfect. Might have to try
Sector 2 time is good.
Wow, just in that last corner, made up 2/10.
You've just done a 55.71. Sector 3 time is quick.
So now what we're seeing here is that absolute willingness of the car with this setup to rotate. So now I've got everything up to temp. Tires are still good. You're still making up time, even if I lose it later from a mistake.
Sector 2 is 2/10 off your best.
The car even has a tendency to want to pull forward in second gear.
That lap was a 55.72. You're less than a tenth off your own pace.
So I think that pretty well...
Restart it, get the clutch in next time.
I think that pretty well illustrates the point. I mean, obviously this is my Lime Rock setup, and it's not tuned for this track. But to immediately go out and even with non-perfect laps, take off 2/10, and you could easily see on the board there where I was coming up and down on times. You know, if you take the time to actually learn how to do it perfectly and got a good setup for the car to run that advanced series, you definitely go a good bit faster. So let's look at this from the outside perspective so you can get an idea. So my fast lap was a 55.7, which was obviously underneath that non-spec setup. So that 55.9 was the last fast lap I did with the fixed baseline setup. So again, let's just roll through this really quick. So the main thing is you're coming up here, and like I said, you're looking for that wall. And we'll switch to the bar chase. Well, let's do the close chase. Let's do that. So coming up here, so you can see pretty much right there, right as I'm getting to that wall, right before the last couple of trees. The shadows really aren't the best thing because the weather changes, might be cloudy, that kind of thing. But definitely right before the end of that wall on the left, or last couple of trees on the right, they're usually fairly consistent unless they change the scenery. So the wall might be your best bet as a marker. And come in here and pull in, keep it up against that apex, second gear corner, back to third, apex, feather the throttle a little bit, apex, and then right down to second there. Notice how tight I'm keeping it until you're out. And then you can come back in, apex the next corner, keep it to the outside, wait for right about there where that line starts to go back to the left. Down to third, dune, absolutely. I mean, you can see it where you have this little bit of extra curb out here. There's dirt, there's grass, but in this version of the track, if you get out there, what most people do is they come out here wide on the right-hand side where that grass is over here, and the next thing you know, they're spinning and they're in this wall over here to the left. And once you jam your nose into that guy, you're pretty well done. But get down here. You want to kind of apex this curve right here. Keep it straight. Don't want to scrub off any speed. And then right here, right before that, hard braking. Down to third. Try to keep it to the left. Slow it down, get it in second, and there you go. So let's look at that again from the standpoint of, let's just make sure I got the right one. So here's the 16, lap number 16. Okay, so from within the car, so cockpit view, let's make it a little bit more accessible for everyone. So there we go. So coming down, moving to the left, watching for the wall, keeping to the inside in second gear, back to third, apex, apex, hard back to second, keep it nice and tight. Don't let it roll out too much till you're past the white curbing on the left. Cross the top of the hill, down to third, float it nice and easy through there. Get back on the gas. Don't swing too far out, don't want to touch the grass. Keep it nice and straight and brake hard down to third. Keep it in to the left. Find a good marker, get it down to second, and get back on the gas. And that's pretty much the secret. I don't know that I've actually won a race here in the MX-5, but I have come in, I think, second and third. Had some very nice, close, tight battles with some very good racers, both in the advanced version of this series and the rookie version of this series. So, and it tends to be a pretty popular thing. So you might have 15, 20 cars in there, and you know, it's a mixed bag. You can have really great races, and you can have bumper car fests. So it all depends. But I mean, keep your wits about you. Try to keep it clean, and don't get too upset when people run into you, especially in the fixed version. Remember, a lot of these guys are rookies, and you might be a rookie yourself, and try to be respectful and keep your lines and try to learn from the experience. So with that, I think that will do it for this video. And so there's my end card. If you're liking the channel, please like, please subscribe, put any comments below. I'm trying to do, especially with the MX-5, which is probably one of my better cars. Sometimes that depends on the track. Trying to do the how-tos. Certainly streaming a lot of races and a lot of practice sessions that can be informative. And sometimes they even go over other people's laps, especially if they're a lot faster than I am. So with that, I'm going to call it for the video, and thanks for watching.